In embedded electronics, microcontrollers must constantly exchange information with components like memory chips and sensors. Early on, this required parallel communication buses, routing multiple, separate metal traces across a circuit board to carry data bits simultaneously. But those thick lanes create a physical bottleneck, eating up critical real estate on space-constrained boards. In the 1970s, Motorola developed a solution, the Serial Peripheral Interface, or SPI. Instead of sending data across wide parallel lines, SPI transmits data serially, one single bit at a time, down a highly efficient pathway. Other serial protocols exist, but they come with severe speed limits. UART relies on two unsynchronized lines, restricting its data rate. I2C provides a single data line where devices must take turns talking in half duplex, maxing out at around 5 megabits per second. SPI discards those traffic rules. It enables simultaneous, two-way communication capable of handling data rates well over 100 megahertz. To achieve that speed, SPI relies on strict hardware architecture. A central master controls peripheral slave devices across 4 dedicated wires. The first is the serial clock, or SCK, a continuous heartbeat generated by the master keeping data transfer synchronized. Next are the master-out slave-in and master-in slave-out data lanes. Because there are 2 distinct one-way streets, devices read and write digital packets simultaneously in full duplex communication. Finally, the chip select line. To talk to a specific peripheral, the master drops the voltage on this wire to act as a physical switch, waking the target slave to accept incoming data. By dedicating separate physical wires to the clock and two-way data traffic, SPI bypasses the software-intensive addressing required by other protocols. The shifting of bits happens directly in the silicon registers, allowing data to move as fast as the electrical signal can cycle. This block diagram from an ST microelectronics application note shows the internal logic of the interface. Inside the microcontroller, the bit streams are handled by a mechanism called a shift register, which processes the data moving between the transmit and receive buffers. The mechanical exchange is circular. As the clock pulses, 8 bits of data are shifted out of the master's transmit register and pushed into the slave. At that exact same moment, 8 bits are pushed out of the slave and shifted directly into the master's receive register. But this hardware efficiency comes with a catch. Unlike I2C, SPI lacks a universal standard for how these bits should be formatted when they leave the shift register. This lack of predefined rules makes SPI highly versatile, allowing it to connect to a massive variety of sensors. However, it also means that if an engineer doesn't manually configure the timing rules in the software, the hardware will misinterpret the incoming bits, resulting in catastrophic data corruption. To prevent that corruption, engineers have to explicitly align 2 variables, clock polarity and clock phase. Clock polarity, or C-pole, dictates the idle state of the clock signal. It tells the system whether the line should rest at a low voltage or a high voltage when no data is actively moving across the wire. Clock phase, or CPHA, determines the exact fraction of a second the microchip actually samples or reads the data. It dictates whether the bit is captured on the rising leading edge of the clock pulse or on the falling trailing edge. Combining these 2 variables yields 4 distinct waveforms, known in the industry as SPI modes 0 through 3. The master and the target slave must be programmed to operate in the exact same mode. If they are mismatched, the receiving chip will sample the data at the wrong moment, entirely scrambling the communication. Because of its massive bandwidth, SPI is the industry standard for hardware that handles heavy data loads. You will find it driving flash memory chips, SD cards, as well as high-precision analog-to-digital converters. But its physical design presents a challenge when scaling up. Every single new peripheral added to the board requires its own dedicated chip select wire, running all the way back to the master. Connect 5 slave chips, and you suddenly have a chaotic and space-consuming wiring web. To solve this routing problem, engineers often use an architecture called daisy chaining. Instead of running individual select lines, all the slave chips are wired to a single shared chip select line, and the data wires are routed linearly from one chip to the next. In this topology, the data moves sequentially, like a bucket brigade. Information is pushed from the master into the first slave. On the very next clock pulse, that data is pushed out of slave 1 and into slave 2, cascading down the line. Daisy chaining allows a system to utilize the raw speed of SPI while drastically reducing the wiring complexity inside space-constraint embedded networks. Ultimately, the serial peripheral interface trades the plug-and-play convenience of other protocols for raw, unfiltered performance. Utilizing it effectively requires an engineer to meticulously route the physical copper wires and precisely configure the timing modes in the software. By stripping away the heavy protocol overhead, SPI provides the absolute shortest, fastest path for data to travel. For high-speed, short-distance communication inside the devices that power our world, it remains the standard choice for moving massive amounts of data with minimal latency.